It is 10 o'clock on a Monday, and it is time to catch up with Bart Keeler. Let me take care of clicking and things. So, Bart, as always, incredibly on the mark. And so Bart is in here on Monday. How was your weekend, my friend?
Very great, very long, very busy. I had to come in town and visit me. She lives in Nashville, came down, and we went to a concert last night. I am tired. I spent a lot of time not sleeping this weekend. It was great.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun.
Well, what was the concert? I mean, don't leave me hanging. I mean, I saw it on your IG, but who was the concert?
It's an artist named Haley Witters. She's a country artist from originally from Iowa, and she's playing kind of a small tour of her own headlining shows, and been supporting her for a while. So I was glad to see her in person as her headline show here in Atlanta.
There you go. So Arsenal. Let me ask Arsenal, and before 10:30 and Prim and Proper takes over, what do you think? I mean, it's going to be a 3-horse race, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, we need Man City to I don't know, magically get fined and docked points for all their financial improprieties. But I think I'm just encouraged to see Arsenal playing so well. I was very disappointed with that midweek match in Champions League. Obviously, different set of scenarios, but the fact that they bounced back with so many goals again, and that was why midweek was concerning, because we had been on this tear of scoring like I think 27 goals a game or some crazy stat like that, and to get basically no shots on goal against a Porto team that's good, obviously very organized and resolute defensively, but still you would have hoped that we would have looked a little better in that match. To bounce back with a resounding win over Newcastle is nice. And yeah, it's tight at the top right now, but I'm just happy that they're playing well and seeing a resurgence during this part of the season where historically Arsenal has decided to forget how to play soccer. We had that in December, and hopefully we're past that.
What's the mug today, by the way?
Share.
There you go. Yeah. Well done. Nicely done. All right. So do you want to start with the women's national? Actually, let's start with episode 80. What can folks anticipate with you in FTC?
Yeah. So I guess I gave you the file that was too short. I don't know what happened there. Probably just some uploading issues. So I brought on Greg from the For the Culture United podcast, who a lot of you all may know. He does a lot of good work with custom designs, nameplates, and such, and a lot of that for Atlanta United. He's based here in Atlanta. And we just kind of go through all the MLS jerseys we liked and the ones that we didn't like, and then focus on if the Adidas partnership is good for the league. Spoiler alert is that I think I've said this on this part of the show too, is I actually think the Adidas partnership with MLS is a overall good thing, but I do think that you could make the argument there that it's holding the league back in some ways. But maybe specific teams are being held back rather than the league as a whole. So we get into that and kind of the design problems that brings, but also the business kind of hurdles that it creates. It's a really long episode because we talked about a lot, but it was a good conversation, not just about graphic design and jersey design, but also about the business of jerseys and MLS.
Yeah, just don't be fanatics in Major League Baseball.
We are not doing that.
That's so awful. U.S. women's national team, it's very, very busy with the W and the Gold Cup. Early thoughts?
Yeah. Well, first off, I think the first game was good considering that was your rotated roster, right? That lineup was a lot of young players. We saw it and we're like, oh, that's interesting. And they were pretty dominant in a 5-0 win over a not great Dominican Republic team. We're seeing that. Obviously, they qualified, but they're still not at that level. But to back that up with a very resounding 4-0 win over Argentina and look in control the whole match, didn't really give Argentina a whole lot of chances outside of, a hopeful prayer from almost midfield, a Steph Curry attempt almost, or a Caitlin Clark attempt probably is the better reference nowadays. It was good. And Argentina is not a bad team, so you're going to give up chances to them. I think that's the takeaway, is that you limited what the other team had and you created a lot. I think also when you're looking at this team, just overall from the 30,000 foot perspective, as you can see a change of philosophy from the previous coach to Twyla, and even with Emma working with Twyla. I mean, we saw back three that was also kind of just more of an amoeba shape and attack where people were everywhere and moving everywhere. It was a little bit more rigid against Argentina. That's probably just, again, because Argentina is a better team than the Dominican Republic. But those types of thoughts, mentalities, and ideas are coming from Emma. And that's the change you're going to see, is a more fluid and dynamic attack that we were frustrated with under Vlatko, being stale, stagnant, and uninspired.
Two players that I wanted to get your opinions of. The first one with being very, very busy and putting the ball in the back of the net. What did you think of what you're seeing from Jaden Shaw so far?
Jaden Shaw is coming for a starting midfield spot. Especially, with Haran and Lavelle. I think the frustrating part for fans is that they are incredibly talented players, but I just don't know if they've ever reached the potential that we wanted them to. Now, granted, this last cycle was under the Vlatko regime, when maybe that was the reason and not them. But Jaden Shaw, at a very young age, she's still a teenager, is performing at a very high level for both club and country, and that is cool. And she doesn't ever look like it's too big for her.
Yeah.
And she looks like she's been a pro for a long time. And that's the benefit we're finally seeing from NWSL, that I do think a lot of the European teams had over us recently, right? Where, although I think our talent level is much higher, they were able to get their players into professional settings a lot earlier than the U.S. team has, because, we were so reliant on the college game, which I still think is a plus for us. But now that we're seeing players like Shaw, Moultrie, even to an extent Smith, Trinity Rodman, they're getting into professional level play a lot earlier in their career. And that you can see when they go to an international, call up, they don't look out of place. They're like, yeah, okay, I'm a professional too. I got this. And I think that's the greatest part of what NWSL is seeing. And obviously this is because we're 10 plus years after the start that we can see the fruits of this. And there are more steps that we can take to get that going quicker. But that is the big thing that you're seeing now, is young professionals coming into this women's national team.
And the other young professional that I wanted to get your early opinion on is the only player that has started both matches of the W Gold Cup so far. And it's not somebody that I think a lot of folks have had on their radar in any situation whatsoever. Corbin Albert, who's over at PSG, got both of those starts.
Yeah, I'll be honest and say that I don't think she was necessarily great in either game, but I think that's also a little bit what she can bring to this team, is solid midfield play. She's really good at doing the work of an 8 where she's busy, right? Offensively, I think she does need to grow a little bit. She's a little sloppy with her passing. But from a ball recovery and just kind of tempo keeper, she's really good. And again, that's what we were missing last time, is someone like that who can do it effectively. And this is a tournament without Andy Sullivan. And again, it felt like we saw Andy Sullivan. Basically, if Julia Ertz wasn't playing, Andy Sullivan was the 6. And Albert, not necessarily a 6, but she's working kind of in that double pivot-ish. She was against Argentina, the 6, and it does seem to be something of an upgrade. And again, she's very young. She's not 21 yet, and playing Champions League minutes for PSG. Has been there for a couple seasons now. And those, again, that is huge for this women's national team, because you're going to see a big turnover, I think, even more so after the Olympics. And Corbin's the type of player who needs to now get the opportunity to prove herself, and she is.
Tonight, your week continues, or your week starts off, I guess, all over again. 10:15, Argentina, Dominican Republic are at 7 o'clock tonight. And folks can catch that on both the Plus, I think, and on Paramount Plus. And it's an odd mix. It's Paramount Plus and ESPN Deportes with English Spanish. So tonight, 10:15, it is USA and Mexico behind Argentina, Dominican Republic on the Gold Cup. What do you think about tonight?
Well, I think the first thing we have to remember is that the way CONCACAF is doing the knockout rounds for the W Gold Cup is the quarterfinals are seeded. So however, whoever gets the most points and goals and all that kind of stuff will be the number one seed. So right now we're behind Canada in that particular race. Canada is at a +10 goal differential. We're at +9. Mm-hmm. So we do need to beat Argentina or beat Mexico by a significant margin. I mean, all we have to do is not lose and we'll win the group. But like we're shooting for higher things than that, you know. So a big win tonight is needed. I think that there's no doubt the U.S. will at least be a number 2 seed because looking at, I mean, Brazil got a win over Colombia, which was a big win for them. They needed that. But their goal differential isn't going to be able to catch up to U.S. and Argentina or U.S. and Canada right now because we're at +10 and 9 and they're like at +2. But that is the thing to watch is you need to not just win, you have to score a lot of goals. You need to put out a resounding win. And that's on top of the fact that this is a USA-Mexico game, right? And the rivalry on the women's side doesn't seem as intense as the men's, but the thing is that Mexico really guns for the U.S. because they know that's the team they have to beat. That's the team that you want to be in this region. And unlike on the men's side where Mexico thinks they're the dominant force in the region, the U.S. women are, because unlike Mexico on the men's side, the U.S. women's national team actually wins things and Mexico just talks big game.
There's the first dig of the morning. It only took
Mexico. I'll dig at them all I want.
It took 12 minutes to get the first dig in the segment in. All right, so let's go to reffing down here. And there were a couple of moments that I want to get into before we get into your appraisal of the center refs that are replacements right now. First moment that I had in my head when I sent you the pregame notes was the red card that was rescinded and pulled back to a yellow with, I want to say, Sean Davis in Nashville Red Bulls match. And it was, I could see it called either way because of the contact that was made by Davis. He was late. It wasn't in the face. It wasn't contact with the face. And that to me could be the reason why I would see it as a yellow and not a red. What did you see there?
So I think first off, I want to talk a little bit about VAR with the replacement referees because we saw a lot more VAR incidents, especially being overturned. Now, I think this was a good incident of VAR correcting not a mistake on the field necessarily, but as you mentioned, like it could have been a red. You look at it, you go, no, we don't want to give a red card for something that really wasn't like it was close to it. But I think you mentioned the contact where it actually hit him.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really dangerous. Is it serious foul play or is it just, a dangerous tackle or challenge, I should say. And I think they got it eventually right just to say, okay, look, this is not the standard we want to set, right? And that's what VAR is supposed to also help with is keep the standard, supposedly. Don't come for me. I know that this doesn't always work. Supposedly, it helps keep that standard of we want these things here to be called and we want these things here to be called in a certain way too. So we can keep the levels and the standards consistent, hopefully, with the VAR reviews. And that one in particular, I don't think was a result of a replacement ref necessarily. I think that was just a holy crap, that was a bad challenge. Here's your red card. Yes. And then looking back and going, oh, okay, he didn't do what I thought he did. Yeah. Because you're able to kind of see the exact placement. And those are hard to see as a referee because pinpointing the exact location on the field like that is like, or on the player like that is hard. And so I think the rescission was okay. But had it stayed a red, I don't think that Red Bulls would have. Well, I don't think anyone would have been able to be upset, but I think that it could have been. Someone was going to be mad either way. I think that what the result ended up being was probably a more just result than a red card.
Mm-hmm. And a couple of moments last night in the weekly nightcap, the late game out in Los Angeles, and it was. I wanted to get your thoughts on the PK of that Ricky Puig eventually would have saved by Drake Callender, and then obviously the second yellow for Marky Delgado. And yeah, so we'll see what happens there. But as we go through what happened last night, a couple of incidents, obviously for the late game. What'd you think?
Well, okay. Again,
yeah,
we're getting into replacement referees, and this is where I don't think there was anything that was particularly egregious by these referees this weekend.
yeah.
But I do think, again, you can see a different way that the match is being called. There seemed to be, and it obviously is also the first week of the season. And I'll remind people that referees also take time to get into the flow of the game. I don't think it was anything particular. Again, I don't think anyone could be super mad about the result that a penalty kick was given.
Mm-hmm.
It was fine,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's where I look at it and just go, yeah, you know what? I'm okay with that being called, and I hope Atlanta United gets that benefit at some point this season too.
There you go. And then the second yellow that was called on Delgado, where Busquets is behind Delgado as Delgado goes to ground and tries to keep the ball from being advanced. Delgado goes in for a slide to take up some space. Busquets sees the opportunity and squats, basically. And Delgado gets a second yellow.
Yep.
And it created some high tension and drama late in Carson, California.
Second yellow cards are hard because I think people expect a different standard if a player's already on a yellow. Mm-hmm. You go, oh, well, the referee needs to know that. And I go, well, the player needs to know that. And I think that was 2 yellow cards is hard for me to argue with, right? Sometimes you can say, oh, the first one wasn't warranted or the second, but that one was, you put yourself in a weird situation. Busquets, being the, I don't know. I don't know, John, if you know this, but he's really good and really smart.
I've heard.
And I think Delgado got the worst of the smarter, craftier player. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. So you end up with a crafty situation.
Yeah.
And Busquets, knowing the environment that he's in, with the opportunity to create an advantage. That's what you're trying to do. And so you're trying to make sure that you can get an advantage late in any way possible as you're trying to get an equalizer and possibly, come out with 3 points. So, all right, now we've had our first weekend with replacement center refs.
Yes.
And I think legitimately across the board, and I spent the entire weekend watching everything from individual games to 360 and was all over the place. I can't think of anything that was totally, completely egregious and horrendous when it came to these center refs. I thought that they navigated it very, very well.
So I'm trying to find this stat, and I should have bookmarked it on Twitter because I forgot to, but
the 12-4 stat?
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Basically, essentially that there's been more, there were more reversals through VAR than there have been in a normal, with normal referees. Let's put it that way. Right. Okay. Here's my thing. I think the first week was fine, but I also think that people think that every single game and every minute of the game, pro somehow screwed up something. And that's factually incorrect too. When you're looking for referees to do good, guess what? You're going to see that they're doing a good job. Mm-hmm. When you're looking for referees to do bad, well, guess what? You're going to find that they make mistakes too. And I was watching with a keen eye, and I thought that, especially in that Atlanta United game, I felt it was a little inconsistent. Now, granted, it's hard for me to be completely unbiased because I'm watching this game wanting, good things for Atlanta United.
Right.
It did feel a little bit like the ref did a little bit like a college game. Murder was about the line that you had to get to for a foul.
I was going to say there was a lot.
At least if they were wanting to foul Atlanta United, right? Yeah. And I think that was what frustrated me is Columbus got some fouls that I was like, but that happened to us. But again, because these are not, yes, I know, Abby, that's kind of the point, right? These are a lot of college referees who are now refereeing now. And so that's what you're getting, right? Is a game called by what the college referees would look at. And college referees allow for a lot of play to continue because to them, the ball is in possession, you're going. And this is something that even I use is because you don't want to insert yourself in a game too much.
Yeah.
And take away from the players to decide the game. However, we have to also remember as referees that players fouling another player is also the players determining that they want to, like, that's part of the game. And if they're going to be physical and foul players, even if that player continues to have the ball, the players are also telling us that this is how they're going to play, and we have to police that a little bit. I thought it was, again, a little inconsistent up and down across the league. We'll see how week 2 looks, because that's the other thing is you can have a good game one day, and then you can come back to the next game, which is a completely different animal. How do you referee? How do you manage? How do you work in that capacity from game to game is the question. And that's something that all referees try to work on, is personally and within the context of the league and the competition, how are you consistent game to game? So that's what I'm curious to see for next week. I'm also curious to see if they ever once make an actual controversial decision against Miami, because we're 0 for 2 in that department.
Let me circle back to that in a second. I think also, and where you have the center refs that have been brought in, the replacement center refs, you have these experienced VAR that are back in the building.
Yes.
And that's another subplot to this, where you might have these experienced VARs buzzing down a little more than normal to kind of keep things, I don't know if you want to say protect the collective or whatever phrase you want to use, but I think that VARs in general might be kind of overseeing a little tighter than they would otherwise, because they're more experienced than the center refs that we're seeing?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. And as I mentioned earlier, VAR can help with kind of keeping those standards tight. And when you have a bunch of referees who are not trained to be MLS referees, again, it's not about do you understand the laws of the game, it's do you understand how MLS has decided we want this game to be called. The VAR officials can help with that. And also something that we haven't talked about directly is a lot of these referees, while they may have to meet the fitness standards of whatever they were refereeing before this, that wasn't the case for MLS hiring them and pro hiring them for these matches. They were not required to pass fitness tests, because obviously they're, it's unfair to ask people a month before a season to say, hey, can you pass this fitness test? And again, if you referee college, you have to do some sort of level of fitness test. So these aren't unfit humans.
What?
But, I could tell that there was different movement mechanics with some of these referees. Another thing that I saw, John, a lot, actually, I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but a lot of offside flags being raised before the completion of play.
Right.
Which, again, these referees usually don't have VAR in their matches. So if they see an offside, there's always a delay to an extent, because we are trying to make sure that, like, yes, did I get the call right? Is the player in an offside position? Was that player actually actively involved in play? But that is something that I noticed more than anything, is just movement mechanics from the center referee and assistant referees putting their flags up before the phase of play has been completed.
Well, yeah, and to your point about that with the ARs, and I think that once again, it's getting, you mentioned getting adjusted to the speed and the dynamics of Major League Soccer, in addition to the information that they already have on the levels that they've already been in. And so having all of these new toys for them, I would say that these center refs and these ARs, they're more self-reliant, I guess.
Is the best way to put it. Yeah.
And
yes.
and having that kind of assistance, if you're a center ref, having the assistance of someone in your ear saying, go to the monitor, or if you're an AR, being reminded let the play go and
Yes.
be more patient and let the play finish instead of having the trigger that you're used to having in collegiate or lower division, that kinds of things. I think that once again, that to me, I will take it as a week one thing and see if these officials will continue to adjust the longer that they're out there.
Right. And I think that just kind of goes back to what I want to say continually about this is that the referees who were part of pro and MLS got to that point because they put in a lot of time at the level that some of these referees are coming from, right? They've been trained to referee the game the way MLS wants to referee. That's the point of pro and MLS coming together to have a union. Wrong word choice in this context. A collective, a group of consistent professional referees at this level. So yes, week one, we saw some changes. That's not bad. It's not bad that if a player is a mile offside, they put their flag up because it's like, well, yeah, he was offside.
Yeah.
MLS referees have been trained, don't do that because we have VAR. We need to make 100% sure that there was we need to make 100% sure that he was 100% offside. And so we also don't want to take away anything that could impact the match. It is going to be different. How do they change or do they change will be the question. Again, what does week one look like versus week two?
And the other element, there were some other instances that I think were handled well by these replacement officials where they were having to, and this was in multiple matches, where they had to sort through multiple ideas that happened. Well, okay, if this we have to go back a step or back 2 steps and analyze what happened before something happens. It happened in the Atlanta match with the Brad Gazan chance early where Brad touches the ball outside the box, but there was an offside, I want to say, ahead of that touch. So the fact that they're able to backtrack, I think that happened a couple of times, and they handled those well also.
And that was actually a good example of the referees getting it right, but maybe taking a little while to get there. Right. Which I think, I know people out here don't want to hear this, but pro would have got that right probably a lot quicker because the process would have been, a handball, but the assistant referee would have immediately probably been talking during the game like, I think he's offside, delaying, or whatever those words are that we hear all the time when we get the PGMOL stuff.
Right.
But that would have been the communication, and it would have been, I think he's offside, put the flag up. And then we take it from there. The VAR part of that would have been, is he offside? And in that case, it was very clear he was offside. It just took a little bit to make sure. And that's fine. Again, we'll take a little delay to get the right call.
Yes.
But these were a little more delayed. And I do think the pro officials, having watched them, would have gotten it quicker, gotten it right quicker.
Yeah. Last point here for another go round with you on a Monday. It's always great to have you here. I know that you want to, you've been making some digs this morning about Messi and friends, and Busquets probably should have been sent off. Gressel was walking a tightrope at times because he was getting kind of mouthy. But
Tata was the one complaining after the match.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about the referees. Well, sir, they actually...
Yeah, because you're getting the benefit. And it's not like it's impacting the match necessarily, right? I mean, LA Galaxy got a penalty kick, and then, yes, they got that second yellow card, but it's like, okay, 2 yellow cards. They were kind of both a little controversial, but they're yellow cards. It's not like you got a straight red for something. I don't I don't want to be conspiracy theorist out here.
Oh, come on.
This is not conspiracy theory down here, but I think we all know that MLS needs Messi and friends to make the playoffs this year.
Oh, they will.
We'll see, John.
Probably won't be top 4, but I know.
No, they better. And if they don't, then they'll be heads will roll. But I think it's very clear that they're going to be getting a lot of benefits this year. And I think despite what they want to tell me about season ending injury replacements and all this stuff, I don't buy that they're salary compliant. Let's just put it that way. I think that there's some extra creative accounting going on. Maybe, Abby, I think your son needs to get a job with MLS and Miami's accounting team right now so he can really learn how to poke the books and hide some values. And I think that it's just going to be this way all season. I really do. I'm sorry. Also, when you have replacement referees who legitimately are going to be starstruck by Messi, Busquets, Alba, Suarez, they are going to be a little starstruck. They just are. And that's something that I think pro referees wouldn't be, because, while obviously they got away with some things last year, they're used to seeing, Ismail Elfath has been refereeing World Cups, like he's not looking at Messi going like, wow, this is the greatest player I've ever seen. It's like, yeah, he is, but I've also seen, all these other players who are really good. Look, it's going to be the narrative all season. But it is just also very apparent to me that MLS is trying to get Messi and friends to the highest potential they can get. I am just really excited for when the fact that they've already had to play 2 matches. They're in CCC. They're going to be in Open Cup. They're going to be in, once all the matches start catching up to them, and Suarez, Messi, Alba, Busquets are playing several matches a week on 85-year-old legs, we'll see how they hand up.